It's time for Lidl's Got Issues Personality of the Year award. I would have liked to have chosen someone from the political firmament in this country, but it's not really been the kind of year for that, has it? My choice for this year is an African American woman who has suffered racism, is regularly held down, is over here visiting briefly, has millions and millions of followers, and a strong political credo. No, not Michelle Obama. Meet Candace Owens. It's such a pleasure. Congratulations on Political Personality of the Year for the Sunday Times Rod Liddle's Got Issues. That must be an enormous boon to you.
It is. It's a great honor. I was so excited when I found out. So thank you for thinking of me.
I've been reading you with great pleasure for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years now. Tell me a little bit about your background, because you were originally on the left, weren't you?
I was, and I think that the majority of Black Americans especially start on the left because we're sort of conditioned that way via the education system. And then I sort of had a political epiphany with I guess you could say, the rise of Trump, with him jumping into the political realm. He was very disruptive, and everyone started paying attention to politics in a different way. And I realized that what he was saying was true, and that I was at my core conservative.
And had you presumably come from a family which was itself probably voting Democrat, weren't you?
That's correct.
Was that fun?
Very fun. Very fun to wake up one day and say, I disagree with everything. You know, it's sort of sad to say this, but in many ways, the reason why I'm so conservative and what I challenge a lot of Black Americans to think about is, do you want to be like our parents, the generation of our parents who didn't do very well? We were on a very great track, actually, in the 1940s, and then by the 1960s, with the proliferation of the welfare state, everything fell apart. Our families fell apart.
Do you blame the welfare state primarily? Yes. I mean, you would argue then with that. You've argued with Black Lives Matter a little.
Correct.
You have crossed swords a bit, haven't you?
Right.
The welfare state has sort of, what's it done? It's taken away what from Black people?
Incentivization. And what's your incentive? Government handouts. It makes them not want to do better in life. They're doing just enough. And it also marries us to the government. So they create all of these policies, and then they come around and tell us that we should be really scared, because if we vote for people that want to encourage us, you know, who have a more capitalist approach, that everything's going to be taken away. They're going to take away our housing and our food stamps. But the truth is, we don't need the housing or the food stamps. We need opportunities. We should have opportunities to generate wealth.
Black people within America have a lower average income, don't they?
That is correct. And that's in large part due to the proliferation of the welfare state in the 1960s. Prior to, we were actually outpacing white Americans in economic growth, and our families were together. But welfare policies actually incentivize families to be apart.
Our families were together. That's one of the crucial points, isn't it?
Huge. Yes.
And that's something which afflicts the African American community in the States. It does a little bit over here as well, that families split up.
That's correct, and that was strategic. Again, the welfare policies removed the fathers from the home, and when you remove the father from the home, what happens afterwards is just ridiculous. You get mass incarceration. You're less likely to graduate high school. You start to look to culture to tell you what's right and what's wrong, and that's why we see sort of these false icons, Jay-Z's and Beyonce's, telling the youth how they should live, and that is sort of the pattern that I'm trying to disrupt.
Yeah, you're doing a bad job of it. An awful lot of Black activists don't like you very much. I get, when I read their stuff, a certain kind of animus there,
right.
I think.
Well, I wouldn't call them Black activists. I would call them race hustlers. They've made a business.
Race hustlers.
They've made a business.
It is an industry, isn't it?
It is absolutely an industry. Al Sharpton, just think about what he owes in taxes, how much money he's made, and that the Democrats haven't been willing to pay him. The left hasn't been willing to pay him to keep blacks
still around, isn't
in this perpetual state of fear, and making us feel like we're less than, and that
victims.
We're separate. Victims, the victim mentality, making us feel that we are separate from the American dream. But in reality, there's nothing more American than being Black. We've been in the country since 1619. Before the Jewish people got there, before the Irish people got there, before the Italian people got there. So when Trump says he's going to make America great, I don't flinch. It sounds great to me.
And you don't really reach back to slavery as an excuse or a reason for Black impoverishment either, do you?
Absolutely not. And here's the thing, is people act like slavery was just unique to America. This was happening all over the world. I mean, aside from the Brits being, I think, the first to abolish the slave trade, and we followed soon after, where would you rather live? There's currently slavery in Africa. So I challenge Black Americans, do you wish slavery never happened and you lived in Africa today? And it's always followed by silence, of course. No one wants to live in Africa today. We're fortunate to be in America.
Yeah.
We are the most fortunate black people in the entire world living
You
in
wouldn't
America.
be a Rastafarian then and back to Africa?
No, absolutely not. I am proud to be an American.
This stuff has got you into trouble before now. There was one moment of, to me, and obviously to you, incredible irony, which was your restaurant encounter. Which was, could you just tell the viewers a little bit about that? Because that was something else.
It really is, and this is what I've been saying, so it played right into my hand in the end, which is that liberalism today is really a bunch of white elitists using minority issues to tell other people how to live. And of course, we have these organizations, or I call them gangs, like Antifa, who say they take to the streets to fight for minorities. Well, they see me in a restaurant, they come in while I'm eating, and they chase us out. For about 40 of them lined up on the streets.
White activists.
White activists shouting at me in an all-black police force, calling us race traitors. Well, whose race do we betray? Well, we're black because we ideologically disagree with you. And that begs the question, are black people really free? If I can't say I'm a conservative,
well, exactly.
am I free?
That's the point, isn't it? But basically, back to that scenario, a black woman having a meal in a restaurant is hounded out of the place by white activists.
Right.
Didn't they get the kind of irony there? Didn't they see that there was a certain irony?
I think afterwards they might have saw, because it obviously went so viral, because it reminds us reminiscent of the civil rights era, where black people were not allowed to eat in restaurants. So I don't know if there's a black conservatives only section that I missed when I went to have breakfast that morning. But it was good. It shines a light on exactly what it is that I go around and tell black Americans.
You're pretty strong on feminism as well, aren't you?
Oh boy, there's a few things I hate more than feminism, which we should stop calling it feminism. I mean, the radicalized women's movement.
Yeah, why?
I mean, because it's not about feminism whatsoever.
What's it
Feminism
about?
was supposed to be equal rights. We've got that. We've got plenty of equal rights in America. You know, men have it way worse off than we do. Now it's about trying to garner power by pretending that you're trying to level the playing field, when in fact you just you just want everything, and you don't want to work for it. You want it handed to you. Think about the Brett Kavanaugh hearing. They're now starting to make up sexual assaults and rapes because they think this is a topic that no one can question you on, right? Well, I question them all the time.
Yeah, you do. You certainly do. Transgender issues?
Right, I mean,
You're up there with that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you're talking about less than 1% of the population, and they're trying to make it seem like this is some rampant issue. And really what we're talking about here is cultural Marxism, you know, and this perpetual state of victimhood, which needs to be destroyed. They don't want our order whatsoever. They want anarchy. They want open borders, and they want to accomplish power, ultimately, for a few global elites.
Yeah. Okay. What about Britain? You're over here in Britain. We're really in the shit at the moment. I'm saying it's awful. But
It is. Yeah.
Do you feel any sympathy for us?
I do feel sympathy, but I'm also optimistic. I mean, I really do think that it's just a moment of consciousness. Somebody just needs to turn the lights on to make people understand that you are about to lose your culture. Right? You are about to lose Britain. You're going to wake up one day and this is not going to be the place that it was. And I want to help deliver that message so that we see a turning point, because if it wasn't for America, we really are the last stand for Western civilization. Fortunately, right when it mattered, we elected Donald Trump. The West would have fallen altogether. So now it's time for Britons to embrace this and understand that we are in fact in the midst of another world war. Just because we're not fighting on the streets and stabbing one another doesn't mean that we're not in a war. The war is ideological this time. We are fighting for the future of the world. Cultural Marxists, communists, repackaged, coming through our universities and the education system.
How did that all happen?
It actually started in France in the 1970s and then came over into America via Yale, and the education systems play a large part in it.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson does a wonderful job of tracing it and walking you through it. I'm sure you're familiar with his work.
Yeah, I know his work. Yes.
Yeah, he's great.
And should we get out of Europe? The European Union?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the two governments, right? I mean, it's unbelievably corrupt. Everybody's missing out. And it makes you lose your autonomy. And it's so important that you guys get out. And just seeing how scary is that you had this vote and they're just saying...
They're saying no. Yes. That's what they do.
Is this a democracy? Is this... Yeah.
One last question. Trump. Totally unreserved liking for him.
Love him. I don't even like the word like. It should be love.
It should be love.
I love my president.
A bit crass at times.
Yeah, but that's what we need. We needed the death of political correctness is what needs to happen first. in order to regain what we had in America. Same here, the death of political correctness. Political correctness is what makes it okay for people to sell you ideas that don't work. For example, multiculturalism, it doesn't work. So what do? They have to remove free speech in order to make you think that multiculturalism could work, because you can't critique it.
And will you get in again?
Absolutely, especially if I have anything to do with it. I mean, no. I think we're starting to see that celebrities are losing a bit of their power.
They're losing it.
Because Hillary ran the most celeb, the most celeb-friendly campaign anyone could have run. She had Beyonce, she had Jay-Z, she had Katy Perry, and she lost.
Well, I always say every time Robert Downey opens his mouth, another 100,000 votes go to Trump.
There you go. There you go.
And finally, are you cheered by Europe? When you look across Europe, you see the growth of populist movements.
I do.
Which would probably have quite a bit in common with what you're saying.
That's exactly correct. And Brazil. You've got Brazil, you've got Italy. I think France is burning down. So they're seeing
never mind.
Right, exactly. And we are starting to see this across the board, because people are starting to understand that they've given up their rights. We've all been brainwashed into thinking that we were helping, when in fact all we were doing was hurting ourselves and our independence. Look, the bigger government gets, the smaller the individual gets.
Brilliant. Candace, it's such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much. Thank you.